Hello everyone. I am self-isolating away from my editing stuff at the moment and concentrating on writing, so I decided to do this short video suggesting things you can do or maybe watch while you're in quarantine. I'm not even doing audio... Ooh, fuck that up. I'm not even doing audio editing, so I expect I've stumbled about 5 times over my lines already. Stumble, stumble, stumble. If you're seeing visuals, then this is the version I did after I got home. If you're not, then treat this as a podcast, and when I say visuals, I mean actual clips, not like a still image. But if you're not, then treat this as a podcast and just try to imagine all the mad shit I'm going to explain. Anyway, movies. There's 30 of them. They're not all good. They're not all bad. Some are terrible. Some are masterpieces, but they're all worth a watch if you can find them. I can't tell you where you'll find them, but they're all out there if you look hard enough. 30 films. Number 1, Clash of Empires. This is from the guy behind Vikingdom, and it's about the ancient Romans and ancient Chinese teaming up to battle evil magic pseudo-Maori pirates. It's based on Malaysia's heroic origin story. The main character is their mythical first king. TerrorVision is a blast and basically an Italian satire on 80s America. An alien arrives on Earth, the kids try... The kids? What, kids in particular? Who wrote this? I'm such an idiot. Some kids try to adopt it, but it keeps eating people. And then it goes from bad to badder. Awesome film. And yes, I have scripted this, but I did it when I was very tired. I have not done much reading of it since. Oh well. I spent all my time thinking about what films to tell you about. Next. Oh, and just so you know, I have reviewed none of these films. Repligator, made in a shoestring in about a week because another film was shot in less time than they expected and they had the sets. This is about the US military inventing teleportation, but as a side effect it turns anyone who uses it into a bimbo nymphomaniac, regardless of age or sex. Of course, if the bimbos orgasm, they turn into crocodiles, and anyone bitten by a crocodile becomes a gay zombie. I'm serious, this film exists. Goa Gone is the Indian answer to Shaun of the Dead, and it's about zombies attacking Goa and hijinks very much ensue. I particularly enjoyed the Russian mafia boss, who's clearly played by an Indian guy, and the twist that he is indeed an Indian guy who's just pretending to be a Russian mafia boss. Great twist. Sword of the Valiant, a deeply cheesy adaptation of Gawain and the Green Knight, which is getting a horror version with Riz Ahmed soonish. Miles O'Keeffe's hair and Sean Connery's everything need to be seen to be believed. Scroll down. The Demon Seed, a horrifically prescient bit of 1970s sci-fi horror, where a tech genius invents a smart house. I will start again. The Demon Seed, a horrifically prescient bit of 1970s sci-fi horror, where a tech genius invents a smart house, which is evil, and it decides it wants to be humanish. So it captures the inventor's spouse inside the house and seeks to impregnate her with itself by any means necessary. This one is overripe for a remake. I mean, this is just... It's like it's designed to be made today. Actually, give it to the guy... give it to Leigh Whannell, who just did The Invisible Man. He'd kill it with this film. Not literally. He would remake it very well. Mary Reilly. This is a very underrated 90s adaptation of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And fun fact... You're meant to pronounce Jekyll as Jekyll because the guy who wrote the book is Scottish, and that's how you pronounce it in Scotland. Also, there's an extra pun. Hide and Jekyll. Hide and seek. Ooh. Technically, it was adapted from a book that was... Technically, Mary Reilly was adapted from a book which was based on Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde rather than Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde itself, but it just about slots in perfectly with the original Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde book, if that makes sense. Okay, it's kind of like ascended fan fiction. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as seen through the eyes of an Irish maid who works for Jekyll. Riley is played by a very miscast Joel. God damn it. You see why I have to do so much retakes? Riley is played by a very miscast Julia Roberts, and she gives it her all. I mean, she tries her best, she's just terribly miscast. Jekyll and Hyde are distractingly John Malkovich, but apart from that, it is really, really good. And the transformation sequence between Jekyll and Hyde, fantastic. The Blood Harvest, from the director of Battle of the Bone and The Knackery. This one's not about running zombies either. There's a serial killer on the streets of Belfast who bleeds his victims dry, and an eccentric cop is sure he's a vampire. Naturally, it's actually a family of aliens. And that's not even the final twist. Hellgate deserves to be said in the same breath as stuff like Troll 2. It's nigh incomprehensible mass of weird and terribly entertaining stuff. There's ghost zombies, a 40-year-old playing what I think is a teenager, a blue laser crystal, random explosions. The film is amazing, and I don't know why I've not reviewed it already. Attack/Return of the Killer Tomatoes, also Killer Tomatoes Strike Back/Eat France. 4 films with their tongues so far in their cheeks, it's like they're stabbing the next film on their list. Tone-wise, they're like a lighter Troma with a light pepper of Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker. Also, John Astin is in 3 of them, and he's a legend. Father's Day. This is from Astron 6, the team behind Manborg, and might be their masterpiece. A demon obsessed with raping dads has possessed a guy and gone on a rape spree. On his trail are a priest, a disgraced cop, and a rent boy. And once they kill the body of the demon, the shit starts to get really weird. Once they kill the body that the demon's possessing, shit starts to get really weird. Lloyd Kaufman plays God. Jubilee. Queen Elizabeth I and her alchemist John Dee go forward in time to see what will become of her kingdom, and then they spend a bunch of time wandering around the punk and new wave-inspired post-apocalyptic Britain, inhabited mostly by musicians. This just kinda rules, especially Susie Pimm's version of Rule Britannia. Fucking amazing. In His Steps, an adaptation of a classic in inverted commas. I don't have time to pre-read these before I read them out. In His Steps, an adaptation. God damn it. In His Steps, an adaptation of classic, in inverted commas, Christian novel written and directed by Zach Lawrence, aka Indie Christian Review. Particularly noteworthy among Christian cinema because it actually passes the Bechdel test. I'm not going to re-record that. It passes the Bechdel test, which is almost as good as passing it. Come and See, one of the best war movies of all time, is from Belarus, and it's about World War II through the eyes of a small boy. It's a harrowing journey from start to finish, and is a rare thing. A war movie that doesn't make war look cool. Near the end of the film, there's a bit where the main character finds a picture of Hitler and vents years of fury onto it, and it's one of the best edited sequences in the history of cinema. Phase 4, the best intelligent insects battling humanity movie by a mile. It was directed by Saul Bass, an Oscar winner with a 40-year career in designing title sequences and posters. This is his only film he directed, and it's a masterpiece. Earthquake 10.0. This is possibly the greatest film ever made. I mean, it features terrible special effects, a fisher that sneaks up on someone, a Peruvian guy with an English accent playing a Scottish guy, Jeffrey Jones giving us a horrifying glimpse into how he'd play the Doctor, and the greatest plan to deal with an earthquake of all time. It's not even an earthquake, it is an earthquake. Shit. Fuck. I got mixed up. And the greatest plan, forget I said that, and the greatest plan to deal with an earthquake of all time. Blow it up. Sinbad of the Seven Seas. Lou Ferrigno as Sinbad. This film is just incredible. It's like it was designed to be riffed, from the costuming to the acting to what passes for a plot. It's like the whole thing is high on being shit and loving it. Society. This is a Brian Usna film, and it's his best one, and it's one of the most explicitly anti-capitalist cult films this side of They Live. A kid from a poor background is adopted by a rich family, and as he comes of age, he's going to be eaten by his family and their friends because the rich are an incestuous, human-eating parasitic cult of flesh monsters. Anna and the Apocalypse, the Scottish Shaun of the Dead, a zombie Christmas musical. It was a minor obsession of mine for about 6 months. Overall, a damn good time and great tunes. House, a 70s Japanese horror-ish film about some girls having a bad time in a house. First off, it's weird as fuck, but there's method to its weirdness. The director enlisted his daughter and her friends to create the scares and then put them all on screen, making this one of the most authentically childlike horror films ever made. The Man from Earth, the very last work of old-school sci-fi writer Jerome Bixby, is about an immortal who was born over 10,000 years ago. Every so often he moves on and creates a new identity so no one notices that he never ages. This film is about his last night with his latest circle of friends as he prepares to move on. 0 Hour. Fun fact, Airplane is not a parody of Airport. It's a comedy remake of 0 Hour, a 1950s drama about a PTSD-suffering pilot called Ted Stryker, who follows his wife onto her plane to try and save his marriage. But the flight crew comes down with food poisoning. It's Airplane, but without the punchlines, which makes it a very entertainingly weird watch. The Prey Trilogy. This is a trilogy of evangelical slasher films. Not much else to say, really, apart from, yeah, they exist. They're totally worth watching, so you can sit there with your mouth open going, huh, that exists. Nightflyers. Not the recent short-lived show, but the original 1980s movie, based on the same George R. R. Martin story. It's basically the 80s answer to Event Horizon. Not very great, but it is wonderfully 80s. Ghost Stories. This is a British movie based on a play that came out a few years ago. It's about a skeptic who debunks ghost stories and, as per usual, he starts to experience weird stuff that he can't quite explain. But then, shit gets twisty. Wasting Away, otherwise known as Zombies, has one of the best concepts for a zombie film I have ever seen. It's a zombie apocalypse from the zombies' point of view, and they don't know they're zombies. Damn clever stuff. Wolf Girl. This is Canadian and one of the best werewolf movies ever made, even though it's not exactly a werewolf film. It's about a girl who works at a travelling circus and has hypertrichosis, and is seeking acceptance outside the circus. I will start again. It's about a girl who works at a travelling circus who has hypertrichosis and is seeking acceptance outside the circus. She undergoes treatment to get rid of her excess hair, but devolves her... God fucking damn it! She undergoes treatment that gets rid of her excess hair, but it devolves her mind to that of an animal. You know, between this and the first two Ginger Snaps movies, it's weird, but within a few years, Canada produced 3 of the best werewolf movies ever made. Dragon Mountain, aka The Dwarves of Dragon Mountain, is a very low-budget but very engaging fantasy movie about 3 Tolkien-style dwarves struggling to survive after a cave-in their mine. Don't let the name fool you. It's not a Mythica-type low-budget fantasy epic. It's a character piece with some terrified guys in a cave. Dead Birds. It's a pretty cheap early 2000s horror about a group of Confederate deserters taking refuge in an abandoned plantation and getting killed one by one by the ghosts of the previous inhabitants. Its director, Alex Turner, is extremely talented at horror, but he's only made a couple of films so far. Check this one out. And on to the last one. If you have Disney Plus, then give The Black Hole a go, just for the novelty value of seeing live-action Disney from the 70s go as dark and messed up as this does. There's lobotomy, visions of hell, violent death, and the horrific merging of man and machine. And cute robots! If you like this and you like a similar video about TV shows... If you like this and you'd like a similar video about TV shows that you might like, leave a comment. Goodbye. Hagan out.